Good evening, everybody. We'll call the Wednesday, July 26, 2017 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Gombeck is absent this evening. Item number 2 is our hearing of residents. Tiffany has informed me we do not have anybody signed up, but if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to come and speak before the commission, please feel free to come up. All right. Not seeing anybody coming their way to the microphone, we'll move to item number 3, the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of item A, minutes for the July 27th, 2016, August 24th, 2016, October 26th, 2016, December 14th, 2016, and June 28th, 17 regular meetings. And just for information, this gets us caught up on all the minutes that we have been behind on. And also item B, PC 2017-022, consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Crossvine Module 1, Unit 3, an approximately 46-acre tract of land generally located south of the intersection of FM 1518 and Hollering Vine, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas. Do we have any commissioners wishing to pull an item for discussion? All right, Chair will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second the motion.
Was that you, Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a first from Mr. Greenwald, second from Mr. Ray. Any other points of discussion? Seeing none, all right, we'll call for a vote. Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I vote aye for consent item A and abstain from consent item B. Okay, item number 4, public hearing for item PC 2017-031. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a replat of the SCUC ISD District Offices subdivision for Lot 2, Block 1, located at 1060 Elbow Road, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Staff?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Let me just go through a few of these slides. So case PC 2017-031 is for a proposed replat of the SCUC ISD district offices. The applicant is the property owner, which is Schertz-Cibolo Universal City Independent School District, and they are proposing to replat the SCUC ISD School District district offices subdivision. The subdivision was recorded in December 1992, and with that recordation, it established one lot that was 11.3 acres. SCUC ISD is proposing to replat the lot to add an additional 4.5 acres to the lot. The site is located south of Elbell Road, and the school district currently operates its administration offices and services from this location. The site is zoned public use district. On this replat exhibit, to the left-hand corner, you'll see an illustration that shows in the striped area the existing lot configuration, which is the 11.3 acres, and to the east of the existing lot is the 4.5 acre, where my cursor is right here, that the school district is proposing to add to the existing lot, and that would be accomplished with this proposed replat. The property has direct access off Elbell Road with 3 existing driveways. The applicant is responsible for complying with the city's tree preservation and mitigation requirements. The applicant has submitted an affidavit indicating that there are currently no protected or heritage trees on site. The site is serviced by Schertz for water with an existing 8-inch water line that extends from Elbell Road. There is an 8-inch sewer line that extends from Schertz Parkway, and the site is also serviced by GVEC for electricity and AT&T and Charter Communications for telecommunications and cable. There are no public infrastructure improvements associated with this replat. The applicant is responsible for all drainage associated with the property and complying with our stormwater regulations. A drainage plan was submitted, and our city engineer has reviewed and approved that drainage plan. The site has sidewalks along Elbell Road. I believe you might be able to see it here along the western portion of the site. Any future development of the site may be subject to sidewalk improvements along the easterly portion. Elbell Road is currently an 80-foot right-of-way, and no right-of-way dedication or roadway improvements are required for the project. Staff has reviewed the proposed replat for consistency with applicable requirements and recommends approval of the replat. The applicant, we have a representative here with the school district that is also available for any questions you may have.
Does the applicant have any questions or comments to add to this? Okay, well, this is a public hearing, so we'll open the public hearing at 6:07. And seeing no one coming to speak, we'll close the public hearing at 6:08. So, commissioners.
Just a couple of curiosity questions. The area that's being added in the replat, has that ever been platted before?
No, it has not, but it currently is owned by the school district.
Well, the follow-on question is, we have buildings on unplatted property. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve PC 2017-0031, request for approval of a replat for SCUICD district offices.
Okay, we have a motion for approval by Mr. Outlaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bro. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, item for individual consideration, item PC 2017-024. Consider an act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for Unit 3 of the Halleys Cove subdivision, an approximately 24-acre tract of land generally located east of FM 1518, approximately 1,375 feet south of Trainer Hill Road, Bexar County, Texas. Staff?
The property owner is Triple H Development, and the applicant project engineer is CDS Muri. The proposal is to preliminary plat Unit 3 of the Halleys Cove subdivision. Unit 3 will establish 34 single-family residential lots, and the Unit 3 also includes the southerly proposed Parkland Dedication area. That was part of the master development plan. The site is currently undeveloped and includes approximately 9 acres of land. It is located on the east side of 1518, about a quarter mile south of Trainer Hill Road. The master development plan was approved by the City Council on September 27th, 2016, at the same time that the Halleys Cove Plan Development District was approved. The master development plan has not changed since its original approval since last September. The preliminary plats for Units 1 and 2 were approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission earlier this year on February 7th, and public improvements are currently under construction for the subdivision. Staff has reviewed the lots proposed with Unit 3, and they comply with the minimum lot dimensional requirements stipulated in the Halleys Cove PDD. Unit 3 includes 2 points of access that connect to 2 streets within Unit 2. I looked at the staff report again, and there was a typographical error. I had mentioned that there were 2 points of access connecting to Unit 3, and that I meant to indicate that it connects to Unit 2, which is located west of Unit 3, and the 2 streets that provide the points of access into Unit 3 are Halley Dawn and Halley Chase. The plat for Unit 3 includes 2 off-site temporary turnaround easements that will be required until the streets are extended with recordation of final plats for Units 4 and 5, so that there are no dead-end streets and so that there's adequate space for vehicles to maneuver and turn around. This specific unit includes Parkland Dedication of 13.7 acres. On sheet 2 of the preliminary plat, you could see a portion of it here on the far southerly portion, and it extends onto sheet 3 of 3 here. The original master development plan identified this proposed Parkland Dedication as a 12-acre lot, and with this preliminary plat, it is proposed as a 13.7 acre lot, so the increase in 1.7 acres is due to the elimination of a drainage lot that was originally approved with the master development plan. When the stormwater management plan was submitted for review with the master development plan and with Units 1, 2, and this current Unit 3 proposal, engineering has reviewed it and determined that the drainage lot would not be required. So, in essence, that drainage lot has been absorbed into the proposed Parkland Dedication. The site would be serviced by Schertz for water, CPS for electricity, AT&T and Charter Communications for cable, internet, and phone services. And once the sewer lines to CCMA's South Schertz plant are constructed, Halleys Cove will be able to tie in for service for future sewer service that will then ultimately lead to the South Schertz plant for treatment. Excuse me. In the meantime, Units 1, 2, and 3 would be temporarily serviced by pump and haul by a licensed third-party vendor. Stormwater management plans were submitted with the Halleys Cove Master Plan and with submittals for Units 1, 2, and 3. And as I had mentioned before, our city engineer has reviewed and approved those stormwater management plans. Sidewalks will be constructed along both sides of the streets throughout the subdivision and will be subject to the city's specifications. All streets within this unit will also be developed to the city's specifications. The plat has been reviewed by staff, and it has been found to be consistent with all applicable zoning requirements, ordinances, and regulations, and staff recommends approval. And we have a representative with the project. We have the project engineer here if there's any questions as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
Well, you anticipated one of my questions, and that was the connections. But I just want to make sure, because on sheet 2, the engineer, where he put his label, he's cut off Halley Chase. Halley Chase does extend all the way to Halley Loop there, correct?
So Halley Chase, so there's 2 streets that run parallel, and they're the 2 points of access that connect into Unit 2, which is located west of the Unit 3. So the northern portion is Halley Dawn, and then the southerly street is Halley Chase right here.
Right.
And that then extends as Halley Chase into Unit 2. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I'm making an assumption here, but you see where the box with the engineer's information, it cuts off Halley Chase.
Yes.
That street does go all the way through to the loop, Halley Loop, which is on the left-hand side, yes?
Yes, it does.
And then, is Unit 3 the last? Are there just the 3 units, or are there more to come?
There's 2 more units. So Unit 4 is located, let's see. This is a portion of Unit 4. And then Unit 5 is, you can't really see it on here, but it's north of this unit, and it includes the northerly Parkland Dedication as well.
Thank you.
Question. Under parks, middle of the paragraph, there's a statement that says, any improvements in the open space and parkland areas will be determined by the city's Parks and Recreation Department. What does that mean, determined?
So in terms of amenities, such as trails or any other features, it would be up to our Parks Department. And right now, I don't believe they have any specific amenities planned yet. I do know that there have been discussions of potential trailways. Other than that,
So the cost is gonna fall to the Parks Department?
So again, probably a very valid question.
Good evening, Mr. James.
Good evening, Commissioner Burrow. So keep in mind, with our Parkland Dedication Ordinance, we have kind of two components of our Parkland Dedication requirement. That's either a land dedication or improvements, or a fee in lieu of. One of those is for sort of the land element. The other is for improvements. And so what we will often do when a development comes in, our ordinance lays out criteria. So for instance, if the project isn't big enough to be able to dedicate enough land, the ordinance allows us to take cash in lieu of land, and then we use that to acquire land or make improvements. And then again, if they're not dedicating, we take the improvement element in cash as well. What we've seen more recently, or we've tried to do as part of the program, because that money, it tends to sit, we spend it on little things, we don't often have enough to go out and actually buy a piece of land, the neighborhood's developed and there's no area to even put a park. And so what we've tried to do with master plan developments now of enough size is work a deal with the developer that we identify the land that makes sense for the park, and then the size that makes sense, and then we coordinate with them on the remaining amount that they owe. And so most developers say, look, hey, I'm giving you this much land, that covers, say, 2/3 of the fee. I still owe you $100,000 in your Parkland dedication for improvement or whatever. But rather than pay the city $100,000, have it sit with them, city spends it who knows where, I'd rather put that money into the park that I just dedicated you, have that going in a reasonable time, and now I'm using that as amenity to help market and sell lots. And that's what we'll do here. Sometimes what happens is we have, given the size of the development, number of lots, and the size of the park, we get a lot of money in for improvements, and there are a lot of improvements the developer puts in. In other cases, we really want the land, and so there's less money to go for improvements. Also, what Parks does once they know that amount is they try to get the developer to put in things that it's more cost effective for the developer to put in. So we don't have developers put in things like benches or trash cans because they tend to kind of pay a premium, charge a premium, show a premium, and we can do those more cheaply or have our folks do it. And so what will happen is Parks will sit down with the developer, they'll say, this is how much after the land dedication you still owe, and they will work out what those improvements to go in are. And so likely, this is to your point, the developer may put in some improvements, and then the city would come in and put in some other improvements, because we can't charge them unfairly. It's kind of a rough proportionality thing. I can't make them go in and put in a whole bunch of real expensive improvements that's not fair for them to do. One of the things we're looking at, and this sort of goes to the question, with this parkland being along Woman Hollering Creek, the park's philosophy is every park is going to be different based on who they think will use it, where it is in the neighborhood, what natural features are there. So they really view this as more a larger area along what will ultimately be a hike and bike trail on Woman Hollering Creek, and the uses that they have or the amenities that they have for that will likely go toward it. So what they would likely not do on this park, if the developer owed money, is have him put in a basketball court. Wouldn't fit with how they think they're going. They're looking for this as maybe a mountain bike trail through there, or a hiking trail through a native where you can come down Womanhollering Creek, you can kind of veer in, though they probably have some amenity for kids who may live in the neighborhood, et cetera. And that's the thing likely that we would do. So yes, as a short answer, the city will bear some of the cost of making the improvements, as we do with probably, I'd say, half of the parks that have come in or will come in the last, say, 3 years. So the city is going to bear some of the costs for some more improvements in Rhine Valley Park. The city bore all the costs for the improvements to the Crossvine Park. I think Parklands, they're probably going to put in most of the improvements. Homestead, for example, will likely put in all the improvements at Homestead Park because of the amount they owe. So it just varies on a case by case. But the developer's not really sticking it to us.
So in this case, we could say it another way, for me to understand better, I guess.
Okay.
Is that it's going to be a joint development of the park.
That's an accurate assessment.
For Halley's Cove, it'll be a joint.
They'll do some, we'll do some.
Okay.
And again, the Parks Department works with the developer, and they've always generally been able to agree on what improvement makes sense given the nature. But we've got a little more sophisticated. We've started asking the developer, well, who are your builders marketing to? Because if they say, we're marketing to empty nesters, then again, I tend to want some amenities that appeal to folks of that demographic, as opposed to, no, I want, again, a basketball court or something like that. So we try to tailor it to who we think the citizens will be in that area. And then also what other amenities we've got in the area as well. If I've got a park nearby that has something, wouldn't repeat it.
Brian, so this money that we get, is that fenced to Parks and Recreation, or does it go into a general fund?
Yes or no. It goes in one of our and now ironically, I've been in budget meetings all day. It goes into a set account, and I can only spend it on this stuff. So I can't tap into it to pay for a new inspector. I can't tap into it to use for anything else. It has to be used. And so, for instance, when Parks wants to spend that, our finance department, our purchasing department, and then generally I look at most of those or have to approve the PO, look at it and say, is it an eligible expense? As an example, that's the same with the tree mitigation fund. So curiously enough, I think it was last week or the week before, I got an item from tree mitigation that the description didn't make sense, and I said, hold on, is this an eligible expense? And they had to come back and verify and say, no, this is what it's for, I can use it. So yeah, this gets fenced, if you will, for just that. And again, before we can accept land, Parks Board looks at it and says, yeah, this is land that's good. Now, the minor adjustment wouldn't need to go back to them, but fundamentally, if we say, hey, we're picking up 13 acres, that went before the Parks Board. Parks Board said, yeah, it's a good piece of land. It's not a bad leftover piece or whatever. So they're involved in those decisions.
So we're not going to accept anything that's shaped kind of like the park we have in Cypress Point again.
So, and that's the example. And the other I'll say, and to make it worse, is we would not accept anything shaped like that, nor would I accept anything that's encumbered to that degree with easements that limits our use. That's why we're doing this closer look. Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess the question I have on this is on that same park section here, the final sentence where it says, engineering's review of the stormwater management plan for the project, it was determined that the detention lot would not be needed. Who determined that? Was that the city engineer or was that the design engineer?
City engineer made that determination.
And we're comfortable that the stormwater flowing off of these developed properties is not going to negatively impact Womanhollering Creek?
So that's correct. So we have a couple things that we do, because I don't think they've done away with all of the detention subdivision, correct? Or have they? In this segment, but not all of it. So again, part of what they do is they may detain more in one area to accommodate another, but then part of what we do if you're near a major creekway like this, and I always forget the term we use here, but up in the Dallas area, it was coincidental peak. It's when you have a rain event, when water starts, because the problem can be is if you detain right here, you slow release, you're slow releasing it as everything comes down as opposed to just sort of getting it out and getting it down quick so that as it comes down, you're not maximizing. So those are two of the issues. So one is, does this drain appropriately within the neighborhood? And then the other is, we want to make sure we're not flooding somebody else out nearby. Those are the two broad things we look at.
Anybody else? All right, seeing as though we don't seem to have any more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve PC 2017-024, preliminary plat of the Hallie's Cove subdivision, Unit 3.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Greenwald. Any other comments or questions? All right, the chair will call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, requests and announcements. Request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. All right. Commissioners, I just want to point out, you noticed that this evening we passed out a copy of our bylaws ordinance. Wanted to make sure everybody had a copy of that and ask you guys to take some time and review it and see. We've got coming up, according to Bryce, on the 9th, our next meeting, we're going to be doing the signs for rezoning applications and hopefully get that finished up. And once we have that completed, we're going to be looking to schedule a workshop type session to discuss our bylaws, including the issue that Mr. Breaux brought up with the secretary and election of a secretary and how we're going to handle that, the position with alternates, and whether we want to request city council to look at filling the alternate position, and look at any other things that we might want to suggest as changes or amendments to our bylaws.
And if I may quickly, when that was brought up before, what we thought we would do is have a larger discussion because we've got other boards and commissions with alternates. So what we thought we'd do is look at maybe the differences in those. And so when the city secretary gets back full time and after you have, we'll schedule that for you.
Is there a place on our website to find these past ordinances? Because they're referenced in some of our package, but I couldn't find them.
Yes, the easiest way is if you go to the city secretary's page, right underneath their picture, there's a link that says ordinances and resolutions, and you just go and it'll be by year. So the way that those are written, the first two digits are the last two digits of the year. So like the one I just handed you, I think is 09. You go to 2009, and then they're all listed by year like that.
All right, thanks.
Okay, items. Go ahead.
Question, Lee. Is Schertz going to get any of that $24.5 million buyouts for the end of runway?
The conversations we have had with Bear County and Randolph is that those are for the clear zone areas, and there are clear zone areas within Schertz as well. So again, as you read in the article, our impression has been as well that they're going to go out and see where they can kind of get the best deal and acquire the most and start there. But yeah, it's for clear zone properties, and Schertz has properties in the clear zone.
I realize that, and Schertz wasn't even mentioned in there except that Jim Fowler was put in as the city rep.
I get the idea that maybe the reaction of some of the residents on getting that in some other cities is what prompted calls in that article. So again, my impression is there was maybe a little more of a dust up in other places. As you know, we've communicated out with residents in those areas, including clear zones, about the J-Loose, so they may have been less surprised to have received that.
And the one item that I have on that is we have a special session going on currently in Austin. A couple things that are on that agenda involves changes in possible regulations for annexation, as well as tree mitigation and ordinances. And so once the special session is complete, I know you guys do an update to council. I think it would be good if we could have the appropriate information that impacts planning and zoning as well.
We can certainly do that as well. And I'd say one thing to not lose sight of, while it may not be as directly impactful, the limitations on increased valuations would impact the city significantly potentially, which obviously would affect our ability to do planning efforts.
I have one question. I think I remember that somewhere, and it may be a state requirement, that there is a 300-foot distance between curb cuts. Do we have a measurement within the city that requires us to stay so far apart with our curb cuts or so far away from corners?
We do. All that information is located in the Public Works Specification Manual, which is available online on the Public Works website. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but we have both driveway spacing distances for intersections as well as spacing between driveways, and it depends on the classification of the roadway.
And then I will say, too, there are issues as well, despite those standards, on not providing access or having to provide access to properties, as opposed to being able to say, you don't meet our standard, thus you can't get onto your property. So if there's a particular situation you're asking about, you can check with Bryce after the meeting. We can get you an answer on that one in particular.
He knows what I'm checking out.
Okay, item B, announcements by commissioners. City community events attended or to be attended, continuing education events attended or to be attended. Anybody? Okay, 6C, staff.
Just wanted to give everybody a quick update on zoning signs since we didn't meet. We had to cancel our last meeting because we didn't have any action items. Where we're at right now, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-apologize because there's probably comments some of y'all want to make, but if you will hold them to the next meeting, we will be having a workshop and we'll get all through this. Just want to kind of give you a little preface on it. We're breaking it up into two items, the sign design itself and what the signs will be made out of, look like, so on and so forth, and then the regulatory aspect. Right now we're evaluating two different options for regulatory. The first is modifications to UDC Article 4, which is where our notification section is. The second possible option is for us to adopt a policy and not make a UDC amendment, since staff will be putting out the signs and picking them back up and managing all of that. We have a couple cities that do both, so Cibolo just has it as a policy base, whereas New Braunfels has it adopted into their code. As a function of that, either direction that we go on that, we will probably have a policy document that lists out information about number of signs and distance spacing and some size requirements, as well as how they have to be located, just as a guidance document for us. And then on the sign design front, we've been working with our sign shop as directed. We have looked through a couple. There's kind of two main options we're going with right now. The first would be a temporary disposable sign similar to a bandit sign like we presented last time. We have since also looked at potentially doing something that's more reusable, a little heavier duty, that we can either erase off of or pull and peel stickers from. And it'll generally have information relating to the case number, information about the request, dates for both planning and zoning and city council, and then contact information for planning staff, as well as just how to find out more information. But we'll have some visuals of what we've put together, of what we think it should look like, and a couple different options for y'all to go over, as well as going into all of this significantly more in depth to get clear direction at the next meeting from y'all.
And then one brief update that affects you as well. Last night, the IT department gave an update on the city's website. and encourage you to watch the video. We're working to do that, to have that rolled out toward the end of September, an overhaul of the city's website. The idea is to make it more usable for folks who have those sort of average question, hey, I want to find this ordinance. It's a little more intuitive to be able to do things like that. The other is to let you know with the screen, we had been taking this time to try to figure out what direction we wanted to go. We explored the option of using LED or LCD screens, which if we began trying to get a little more savvy with our broadcast, either broadcast live or be able to do more with graphics, they have the ability to do more with kind of split screens to show two pieces of information. Unfortunately, for a reasonable price, we do not have the ability to get the clarity that we want, because often what we show up on there are numbers from a budget. So it's not just an image of somebody, you have to really be able to read number, and so the cost of that turned out to be too prohibitive. So we're essentially looking to replace the system that we've got with a more modern, higher quality, but they just finished getting bids on those, so we hope to have that installed in the next 6 weeks, I would think. So just to give you an update on that.
Since the last meeting, we received one new site plan application. It was actually an application for a site plan amendment for We Rent It, the existing facility, which is located at 18115 IH 35. The site plan amendment is to reconfigure some storage areas, alter the previously approved paving material, and relocate the detention basin. The original site plan was approved on January 20th of this year, and all the building, parking spaces, and landscaping have remained the same from the site plan approval. And so again, the only changes that are proposed with the site plan amendment has to do with the storage areas and the paving material and the detention basin. Thank you.
All right, that gets us to the end. Item number 7, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Actually, I have one more thing. It's on the APA in Frisco in November. I just need to know who's going to be attending, and I would need to have that by August 9th. Is the last time that I would need to know if you're going to be able to come or not.
So at our next meeting, you have to make a commitment to go or not go.
And if you already kind of know that you're going to come, you can just come see me after the meeting, and I'll put you down. And also, if you're going to carpool with us, so we can kind of make sure who's going to be with us and who's going to go on their own. Thanks.
All right, and with that, I do believe we're adjourned for the evening. Thank you, gentlemen.